welcome LeVar, please. All the way to the stage. On your feet, please. A little bit more. There you go. And if you'd like to say a few words up front, or just go right to the question? A few words up front? There you go. Right to the question.
He said, would you like to say a few words up front? The old jokes are the best. Aren't they? Yes. What a suit. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Can we get a round of applause for the suit? Thank you. Beautiful.
Thanks. Well, are you ready for the first question?
Well, no, I want to talk about your suit.
Do you want to see the lining? The lining?
Yes. Show us the lining.
I got this in Turkey, by the way. Yeah, I did.
Beautiful.
Best $50 I've ever spent. Nice. Yeah, I'll replicate it for you.
Very nice.
Well, welcome.
Now, see, if Jonathan Frakes were here, he'd say, do they make that for guys? But Jonathan Frakes isn't here. So I'll just say one more time. Nice suit.
Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. It's you know, this is the third time this year I've been to Pittsburgh. Yeah. And every time I come to Pittsburgh, I like it more and more. I'm beginning to really learn my way around downtown, right? And I would. Black and gold is pretty popular here in town. You know, I just found out, I don't know why it never registered, but Pittsburgh is the only town, the only city in America where all of your sports teams wear the same colors. Yes. There's no other city like that in America. I think that's fantastic. And all of your bridges are yellow, too. So it's kind of a theme, right? Love that. Love that about y'all. Yeah. So yeah, I love this city. I'm beginning to learn my way around the downtown area. I love walking around at night. And how about your weather right about now?
That's not bad.
Lovely. Very, very nice. So thank you for the hospitality, and thank you for arranging such nice weather. Yeah, it's going to rain on Monday, and I'm leaving on Sunday, so it's all good. All right, so I see that the line is forming in the middle of the house, and so there are a lot of you that have questions. You, sir, would be the first question.
Hi, Mr. Burton. My name's Dennis Mitchell. Just want to ask you, of the Star Trek legends that you've been on screen with, who's your favorite to act opposite of?
Well, Jimmy Doohan. Because he's Scotty. Yeah, absolutely. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering.
Austin.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Oh.
How are you? I'm well. Austin was the first person in line this morning, and his sister Meredith.
Wife.
Wife. Sister, wife, sister, wife. Wife, 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 wife.
I was wondering, whenever you directed the episode Second Chances,
Yes.
What were the challenges from a director standpoint?
Jonathan Frakes, and Jonathan Frakes.
I was just wondering what the challenges were of having to have him in so many places at once.
Okay, one Jonathan is plenty, two Jonathans is way too much. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello, it's a two-part question. How was it to work on Community with that cast, and since it got renewed, do you think they'll ask you back, and would you go back?
Well, it all depends on whether or not Donald Glover comes back, because
he was interested.
right now, we are being held captive by pirates. Some days in the Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, if Donald comes back, and if they invite me, I love Community. I love the show. I love Donald Glover. I'd be happy. I'd be happy to return.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to know, what is your favorite children's book, and what would you say Geordi LeVar is?
Never been asked that question. When I talk about my favorite children's books, I generally cite two, one for boys and one for girls. The book that I choose for boys is called Enemy Pie by Derek Munson, and a terrific story about a young man who has a problem. He's got an enemy who's moved into his neighborhood, and his father makes enemy pie for him to solve his enemy problem. It has a surprise ending that you won't see coming. At least I didn't the first time I read it, and I really love that book. I highly recommend it. For girls, I like a book by Mary Hoffman called Amazing Grace. You know Amazing Grace? Yeah. Some people know Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace is a story about a young girl who wants to be Peter Pan at her school play, and her classmates, some of her classmates don't think she should be Peter Pan because she's black and she's a girl. However, Grace surprises everybody with the power of her imagination, and is the best person for the part, and of course she ends up winning the role. So those are two wonderful pieces of children's literature that I always like to recommend. As far as what would Geordi's favorite children's book be? Three Blind Mice. How are you going to boo me on that? I thought that was pretty good. Hi.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I want to know what your favorite memory from Star Trek was.
My favorite memory from Star Trek, Melissa? Was actually one that didn't happen on the set. When I got married many years ago, Brent Spiner was my best man. And my groomsmen were Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, and Patrick Stewart. So my wedding photos are kick-ass. Thanks, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I wanted to know who your idols were when you were growing up, and both in your family and outside of your family.
Hands down, by far and away, my mom. My mother, Irma Jean Christian. Whenever I speak in front of people, I always like to mention her name, Irma Jean Christian. I am the man I am because my mother is the person that she is. It is my mother who's responsible for my love of the written word. She was an English teacher, and in my mom's house, you either read a book or got hit in the head with one. She wasn't particular, it was your choice, but you were going to have an encounter with the written word. My mom is terrific. She's a single mother, raised my two sisters and myself, always put us through Catholic school, the best education possible. My mom taught me at a very early age that I would grow up and live in a world that would sometimes be hostile to my presence simply because of the color of my skin. And she knew that the only leveler of the playing field was the best education she couldn't afford. And she always made sure that we had the best education available. Yeah, please applaud for my mom. My mom's everywhere.
Are there any roles that you turned down that you wish you wouldn't have?
Roles that I turned down that I wish I would have? No, not really. It was, I think, third or fourth season of Next Generation, and I didn't find this out until after the movie was released, but the producers of Glory wanted me to play one of the roles, and the producers of Star Trek said no, he's busy, and Denzel Washington went on and won an Academy Award. Yeah. you know.
Hello. I was wondering, what is the inspiration you had for reading Rainbow in the first place?
Well, the inspiration, my participation is inspired by a couple of things. Clearly my mom. And the Roots experience, interestingly enough, was one that really demonstrated for me the power of the medium of moving pictures and sound. And because there are maybe a handful of you who were alive when Roots first aired. When Roots first aired, raise your hands if you were, oh, more than a few. Okay, all right. In 8 consecutive nights of television, I observed America become transformed around the issue of slavery and its attendant legacy racism. And Roots was a learning experience for all of America, both black and white America. And when the idea to use this very powerful medium to get kids connected to books, especially during the summer vacation when their reading and comprehension skills plummet because they're not reading. In the 80s, our kids were spending all their time in front of the TV, especially during the summer, so it was pretty radical to use this very powerful medium to get kids interested in literature. I thought it was a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Hey, Eric. I have 2 questions. First of all, it has to do with the fact my son is 7, and he saw your picture on the flyer for this convention. He said, "That's the guy from Reading Rainbow." I said, "How do you know that?" So they show it at school. So they still, it's still creating a rich legacy. And my question was, what do you like to read? Like just for fun, just for pass the time. What kind of books do you like to read?
3 Blind Mice. Oh, sometimes I crack myself up. My favorite genre of literature tends to be science fiction.
Another question is for your, I think it was your second appearance on Big Bang, or no, first appearance. Are you?
They're wearing handcuffs.
Yeah, I just escaped from Arkham Asylum. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I came to see you. No. Are you really so done with Twitter?
No, not really. But I haven't tweeted. I tweeted today. I tweeted good morning, y'all, or I tweeted morning, y'all. I try and tweet morning, good morning, and sometimes I tweet night, y'all. But I like the Twitters. You don't like the Twitters, Aaron? Oh, you love the Twitters. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I do all my own tweeting. Yeah. I do all my own tweeting. Interestingly enough, I'm on Twitter because there was someone impersonating me. And I'm a fairly early adopter. I've been on Twitter over 5 years. But there was somebody impersonating me, and their tweets were humorous only because they were incongruous coming from LeVar Burton. You know what I mean? And I didn't think that was okay. And so I was able to contact Twitter and get my name back. And I figured, well, this is a tremendous opportunity to say what I want, when I want, how I want, in 140 characters or less, and it's turned out to be a wonderful way to communicate with fans. Absent publicists or lawyers or studio executives, it's my conversation. It's what I want to talk about, and I feel it's pretty empowering. I enjoy it a lot. Anybody follow me on Twitter in the room? Yay! God bless. I'll tweet you.
In 2 parts, is there a book that you're reading right now?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that?
Game of Thrones, Sound of Ice and Fire. I just finished watching the television series. I did all 4 seasons in 2 weeks.
Whoa!
And I loved it. And my wife and daughter have been fans from the very beginning, so I enjoyed it so much, I really wanted to go and have the experience with the book. So I'm about 900 pages in, and on my iPad, I think it's about 6,700 pages. So I got a long way to go.
A book that you tend to go back to, something that means something to you that you want to re-experience again and again.
Oh, I have a lot of books on that list. A lot. I tend to reread books an awful lot. I find that, and I'm sure you do too, that going back to a book, there are things that you see and that occur to you that didn't the time before. So, well, let's see. I've read the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever, several times. I love Stephen R. Donaldson's work. I've read The Road Less Traveled on several occasions. I'm a big fan of M. Scott Peck and his philosophy. There are a lot. I love rereading books. Yeah, man.
Hi, what is something we can take your word for?
I'm here.
What was it like wearing the visor on Star Trek Next Generation?
It was hell. Can I just say I hated the visor? Well, hate is a strong word. Yeah, oh yeah, that's the word I wanted to use. The visor, and at the same time I love the visor. So I have a very conflicted relationship with the visor because I get how it communicates the sophistication of the technology of the 24th century, and it does a terrific job of that. However, when I put the visor on, I can't see shit. Literally, my vision is reduced by 85%. I could not see this, I couldn't see that. Imagine running around without seeing your feet all the time. And it would never do for Geordi to look down. Geordi had to be on it all the time. And it was part of his character that he moved with energy, right? Geordi was always on top of the situation. Even when he wasn't on top of the situation, he acted like he was on top of the situation, right? So the visor presented a lot of problems, and not the least of which is, after about a half an hour or 40 minutes in it, I'd begin to get a headache. So I'd have to take it off and frequently throughout the day, just because it was literally a pain in my head. So yeah, I love the visor. I hate the visor. It's kind of like my wife, my sister, my wife, my sister. But ultimately, one day it's going to put my granddaughter through college when I finally decide to sell it on eBay. I think that will be my ultimate revenge.
Hi, my name is Leah. I have two questions. The first one was, what was your favorite part about being on The Big Bang Theory?
The money? I'm a big fan of Big Bang. I love the show, and being asked to be on it, not once but twice, was really special. And Kaylee Cuoco and I had worked together many times. She was in the last season of Charmed, and I directed many episodes of Charmed back in the day, so it was good to reacquaint myself with Kaylee.
And why was the promise of gas money and free food enough to be on Fun Flag?
That's just how I roll.
How you doing, Mr. Burton?
Well, those are the essentials of life, aren't they? Right? Gas money and free food.
Keeps you going.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. Hey, Mr. Burton, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
Doing outstanding. Thanks. Good to see you. My name is David. I have two questions for you. First one might be kind of different, but the legacy or the formula for Reading Rainbow was extremely successful. I guess my question is, do you think that exact same formula would work the same way of getting, reaching out to kids as far as community points of math and science?
Wow. I'm sure that with some alterations. Look, the idea of Reading Rainbow, at least to me, was pretty simple. Number one, meet kids where they are and take them where you want them to go. Back in the 80s, our kids were spending a lot of time in front of the television. Today's kids, if you want to reach today's kids, you need to be on a tablet device. You need to be in the digital realm. And so 2 years ago, we launched the Reading Rainbow app on the Kindle Fire and on the iPad, and we now have kids coming to the app and reading 200,000 books a week. Wow. So this is an experience that has really shown me that we can teach our kids anything we want. And if we use this very engaging technology, I mean, hell, we all want to be on these devices, right? If we take this technology and put whatever it is we want to teach our kids, math, science, literature, language, put it in the form of storytelling. Put it in the form of storytelling, right? Add some bells and whistles, some rewards, some gaming mechanics. We can teach our kids anything, and we can use this very engaging technology to do it. I firmly believe that.
Outstanding, I like that. Thank you. This last question here. What legacy, I know it's hard to wave it to, but which legacy means the most to you? Your legacy from Star Trek or your legacy from Reading Rainbow?
Well, why did you leave out Roots?
Roots, that's a good one too. Roots, that's a huge one too, yes.
And why do I have to choose, David?
Touche.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. As culturally significant as Roots is, and as inspirational as Star Trek is, I am most proud of Reading Rainbow.
We're going to put the line right now, so the last person in line will get to you.
What was your favorite moment from Star Trek Next Generation, and what made it your favorite?
Favorite moment from Star Trek Next Generation? I know what my least favorite was. Being turned into a lizard. That wasn't fun. That kind of sucked. But my favorite moment? I don't know. I'd say the experience of directing for the first time. Directing Second Chances, I was so pumped up, I was so psyched, and at the end of it, I knew that I had discovered a new vocation. I knew that it was something that I wanted to do over and over and over again, so that was a real epiphany for me.
Let's move up, let's move up. You guys, you get further and further away. Yeah, come on. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. My name's Anna. This question comes from my brother. We both grew up on Reading Rainbow and loved it. And he was wondering why you chose to approach improving literacy by just making kids love books and love to read, instead of approaching it from the more educational, the more regular sort of standpoint of just improving literacy through like phonics or something like that.
Well, I think that both are necessary, and there are plenty of people who teach kids how to read. Very few human beings ever fail to crack the code, right? You will learn how to read. It's pretty much assured. Then the next step for me is developing a love of reading. And if you do that, your life improves immeasurably over the course of your lifetime. And it's just, I don't think that it's possible to achieve your full potential as a human being without being a reader, without loving to learn.
Well, recently I've read the George Orwell's 1984 and Animal Farm, and it really opened my eyes to the world around us and what our history is.
What book has done that for you?
Oh, there are a lot. I studied for the priesthood earlier in my life, and when I made the decision to not become a priest, it was as a result of reading some existential philosophy, Lao Tzu, The Way of Zen, Metamorphosis, Kafka, Kierkegaard, Heidegger. These were the eye-openers for me that caused me to really want to go out there and explore the world without the stricture of wearing a collar. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and just want to start off, you're so handsome.
I'm blushing too, Jenny.
My question is, well, I was a huge fan of reading Rainbow growing up, and I was wondering, do you have a favorite poem? And do you want to recite it to us?
Madam, I am Adam. Short but sweet. Oh, he's my traveling companion. Thank you for being here today. Hey guys, I wanted to congratulate you on the continuing success of Reading Rainbow. Thank you for your dedication to literacy. I've been following you since Roots, and I recall a movie called Dummy that you had done with Paul Sorvino. Yeah, absolutely. Excellent movie. Yeah. I wanted to know how you felt when you were picked up for the launch of Star Trek: The Next Generation as a TV series, and then later when you found that it was going to succeed the original cast in the movies. Well, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I don't know if you know that. I love the original series. Like I said earlier, science fiction tends to be the body of literature that I gravitate to more than any other, and Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future was seriously important to me. It was not often, when I was a kid, to find heroes in the pages of the science fiction novels that I read that had characters who looked like me. So Gene's vision of the future was one that at least stated when the future comes, there's a place for you. I'm a child of the 60s, so I grew up in the middle of the Civil Rights era, and seeing the Shell Nichols on the bridge of the Enterprise meant the world to me. So growing up and becoming a member of that family, I don't have words, really, to express what that means to me. Yeah, thank you.
I know when I was a kid, I kind of grew up watching Star Trek: Next Generation, and that kind of shaped my love of sci-fi, acting in general. Was there like a role or a movie or a TV show that kind of did that for you when you were a kid?
Star Trek. Yeah. Now, in case you hadn't heard, I love Star Trek.
There's the thing of time of peace, and they're just being very cool times, and it keeps getting more of the time of sadness and party. All the time they keep being more maybe.
Talking about cars again.
Talking about cars. I love cars too.
I really love cars too.
Christopher, we had this conversation yesterday. What kind of car do I drive?
Lexus.
That's it, baby.
My question is, given how committed you are to literacy and education, have you ever considered running for public office, and if so, would you use the campaign slogan, "You don't have to take my word for
it"? When I left the Catholic Seminary in 1974 and moved to Los Angeles to study theater at USC, my minor was political science. I grew up in Sacramento, capital of California, in a highly politically active and aware family. And at one point in my life, I did consider public office as a way to serve. My mom's second career was as a social worker, so I grew up really with the primary example that one's life should be about service, no matter what it is you do. However, the older I got, the more disillusioning the game of politics became to me, and I currently believe that I can be much more effective doing what it is I do, rather than trying to run for any sort of office. Well, thank you. I'm not going to ask you to.
Hi, my name is Kayla, and I loved reading Rainbow growing up, and I think if I could have lunch with any celebrity alive or dead, I would want to have lunch with you. You're just so intellectual, and we'd have a fascinating conversation. But my question is concerning the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films. What is your opinion on how they've done anything, and would you potentially like a part in it? Be totally candid. We can take it.
Thanks, Kayla, and let's have lunch. You know, I like the films. I do. I'd love to be able to say I love the films. I think they're terrific. They're great action pictures. But I miss Gene's vision. It's just... Star Trek has always been about something, and I would love for this new incarnation. I would love for these new movies to follow in that tradition. I have asked him whenever I see him. I asked him, well, when are you going to talk about something that's important? And he never answers. Maybe this next one that Robert Orci is directing will return to, will come back home. I would love for, you know, I love the characters, and I care about what happens to them. I just want to see them engaged in some story that inspires me or causes me to think and feel.
Hello, my name is Will, and you had just to get started away, you had a huge impact on me as a child, just through shows like Reading Rainbow and The Next Generation. You've seen a strong career. You've chosen shows that manage to appeal not just to the whole range of the family, and that's a very difficult thing for entertainment to do, but also to encourage children to take an interest in the sciences and to explore and develop their curiosity. And you're even doing that now with not just the new Reading Rainbow, but even the new Transformers Rescue Bot show is surprisingly very smart for a Transformers cartoon. And so I'm asking you, as an authority on the subject, and as an aspiring writer myself who's somewhat inspired by your long career, I was wondering, what qualities do you think the kids gravitate towards that you can use to entertain them and at the same time teach them something without them realizing they're being taught, or whatever? What does it take to reach kids is what I'm asking.
I think everything begins with intent and intentionality. At Reading Rainbow, we are aware of the fact that we are attempting to use the medium for more than just entertainment. I mean, entertaining is a part of the mission, always. But to enlighten and inspire and inform when you can, and educate, this is what I strive to do. It's interesting. I really don't feel like I've chosen these things in my life. I'm not the kind of guy who gets to do whatever he wants. I feel like I've taken what's come my way and done the best I could with it. And you know, not everything. I mean, look, you in order to have a long career, you're going to have, you know, I did a zombie movie for the Sci-Fi Channel a couple of years ago. Clearly, you haven't seen my Fantasy Island episode or my episode of the Love Boat. They can't all be gems, you know. You're going to kiss a few frogs along the way. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Emily, and I just want to say, first of all, you and Brent Spinner were my idols growing up.
Spiner.
Yeah. But I had crushes on both of you. My question, though, is about Roots. Was it personally emotional for you to play the young Kunta Kinte in that?
Very. Absolutely, and I felt like I've been preparing for that role my entire life. I had an interesting conversation. There was one gentleman, like the last person in my line before lunch this afternoon. There you are. He asked me about the whipping scene in Roots when Kunta was forced to accept the name Toby. And he had read somewhere or heard that it was a difficult scene for me to shoot, and in fact it was. And he noted that there was never a shot in that sequence that included both the character of Kunta and the man who was whipping him. And I shared with him that we had to shoot that scene twice, because the first time we attempted to shoot it, I was just too afraid. I found it very difficult to stand on an apple box with my back to this man and have him hurl that whip in my direction. And so I was just too nervous. I was jumping way before the whip was landing. And so we had to blow it off for that day and bring this guy back on another day. And I spent the morning with him, a couple of hours, and just hung out with him while he showed me just how proficient he was with that thing. And when the whip is released, I think he said the tip is moving at 140 miles an hour. And that's a lot of force and obviously a lot of sting in the hands of somebody who intends to do harm. And as it turns out, you know, just getting to know him and seeing how good he was with the whip, that he could really do anything he wanted with it, gave me the confidence, you know, to try it again. But yes, it was very personal on not just a physical level, but deeply emotional as well.
Okay, we got time for just a few more. You good with that?
I am, yeah.
Go right.
Hi, my name's Gary. My question is, it's two-part.
What is it with Pittsburgh and two-part question?
Basically is, if they make another Next Generation movie, who do you want to direct it?
Me.
To not be in it.
Is that a trick question? You mean in terms of the regular cast?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anyone to not be there.
Okay. About Jonathan Frakes. So.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love Jonathan. He's my ally. He's a lot of work. Johnny's a bad boy, you know? And I love him. It would not be the same. If any of us were not there, it wouldn't be the same.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, first, before I ask my question, I want to know if you were possibly familiar with the Harry Potter verse. John, are you there? Are you not? Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, I've read the books.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Okay.
What house, I'm the Ravenclaw, what house do you think that you and Geordi would be sorted into?
Wow. You're a Ravenclaw, you said?
Yeah.
Proud Ravenclaw. Yeah. I like Ravenclaw. Hufflepuff.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
You
by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You said earlier how much the Reading Rainbow app has really, you feel it's taken off as a good thing. How do you personally feel about printed books versus electronic reading devices?
Yeah, I think they both have tremendous value. I love reading bound books. I do. I grew up in an era where that was all we had. I believe that sooner or later we will come to the conclusion that it is no longer sustainable to cut down trees to make books, and we will make fewer of them, which will make the books that we own more precious to us. I believe that we will always print some books that cannot be enjoyed necessarily to their fullest extent in the digital realm. However, I now carry a library around on my iPad, and that's amazing to me. Where kids are concerned, I don't care whether it's in a bound book or on a tablet device. I simply want kids to read.
I'm Emma.
Emma.
You were like my biggest hero growing up. I loved reading. I loved reading Rainbow. It was my favorite show. One of my favorite parts was the little field trips you took. What was your favorite or most interesting place?
Oh my
that you
gosh.
went?
So many. But a few stand out. Being at the summit of Kilauea, the volcano during an eruption was pretty cool. I learned to fly an airplane on Reading Rainbow and flew an airplane for the first time. I learned to dive for the episode Dive to the Coral Reefs. I've had so many wonderful experiences over the 31 years I've been the host of Reading Rainbow, and I really think it's the best job I've ever had, and I'm the chief engineer of the enterprise.
Time for one more question. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. You
Yeah.
are the last question.
Yes, I'm very privileged to be the last, and thank you. My name is Angela, and I'm from Perryopolis. It's a very small town. Oh, thank you!
Perryopolis in the house.
Yeah, grew up, graduated from Fraser, class of 2000. Well,
is that your mom?
No, actually. I just want to thank you for being an incredible inspiration to, well, so many of us, but in particular for inspiring me to read. And I took my first trip as a child to a public library because of your show, Reading Rainbow, and I've been an avid reader ever since. And also, I really thank you for the role of Geordi LeVar on Star Trek Next Gen because, well, as you can tell, I am partially blind.
I see your game.
And it was really important to me as a child to know that someday that I could not be labeled as such.
Right.
And I just want to thank you for all of that.
Again, that's one of the things I love about Star Trek, in that it is a meritocracy. And that if you are the right person for the job, if you are the most qualified, that job is yours. Believe me, being, for people who have physical challenges, what Michelle Nichols was for me as a person of color, means an awful lot. And I thank you, Angela, very much for being here and for being there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate you. Really nice. Thank you for your time, your energy and attention. I'll see you next time, but you don't have to take my word for it.